The snake at the bottom wine tank. A rainy night at the end of July. A pickup truck stopped in front of a mountain market. In a corner of the market, an old hunter opened a black sack. Inside was a giant snake, nearly 6 meters long. Its body was as thick as an adult's thigh, its black scales gleaming like metal. The strange thing was, it wasn't completely dead. Its golden eyes were still open, staring at each person with a chilling gaze. The hunter's voice was hoarse. This one has lived for over 100 years in the mountain ravine. Don't kill it. No one heard. Mr. Dye, a wealthy businessman, who was fond of collecting wines infused with rare animals, laughed loudly. The older the snake, the more potent the wine. The knife plunged down. Hot blood splattered all over the cement floor. Just before its head was severed from its neck, the snake let out a long, drawn-out hiss. That sound was exactly like the sound of a woman crying. 3 days later, a glass vase, nearly 1.5 meters tall, sat in the middle of the living room. In the golden liquid, the carcass of a snake lay coiled. Its eyes were still open. The guests were all amazed. Mr. Dye smiled triumphantly. 1 glass every night. Great tonic. The first glass. Nothing happened. The second glass. He slept very soundly. At midnight, he heard the sound of dripping water. Drop by drop. Drop by drop. He opened his eyes. The room was pitch black. From the living room came the sound of the wine in the vase bubbling. He stepped out. The vase remained still. But the snake was no longer coiled. It was standing. No. More precisely, it had raised half its body inside the vase. Its head was pressed against the glass. The golden eyes stared straight at him. The mouth slowly opened. Inside wasn't a snake's tongue. It was a pale woman's face. She whispered, "Repay my life." He screamed. He woke up with a start. Drenched in sweat. It was just a dream. But the next morning, 4 bruises appeared on his neck. They looked exactly like ligature marks. The second night, he drank again. This time, the dream was clearer. He stood in the middle of the forest. Thousands of snakes crawled across the ground. In the middle was a snake. Headless. The severed neck was still bleeding. But a voice came from inside its belly. "You killed me. I'll take your life." Thousands of snakes simultaneously opened their mouths. Crawling up his legs. Into his mouth. Into his ears. Into his eyes. He woke up suffocating. His mouth was full of blood. The doctors couldn't find the cause. From that day on, every glass of wine was a new nightmare. One day he saw his son being swallowed alive by a giant snake. The next day, his son actually had a car accident. One day he saw his wife drown in a wine jar. 3 days later, she fell into the water tank behind the house. Luckily, she was rescued in time. He started to fear. He wanted to throw away the wine jar. But no one could lift it. For strong men, the jar remained as if rooted to the spot. One night, He stayed awake all night. He stopped drinking. Exactly at 3 o'clock in the morning. The sound of glass cracking. Crack. 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 He turned his head. The jar appeared by itself right at the bedroom door. No one had brought it in. Inside the jar, there was no longer a snake carcass. Only blood-red wine. Behind him, a cold breath. He turned around. The snake was coiled tightly around the ceiling. Its head slowly lowered before him. This time, it had a head. But that head, it was his own head. A laughing head. "It's your turn." He fainted. The next morning, the servant found him lying motionless. His whole body was covered in constricting marks, as if strangled by a snake. There wasn't a single snake in the house. But the tiled floor was covered in streaks of viscous liquid stretching from the living room to the bedroom. Panic ensued. The family summoned all sorts of shamans. They burned talismans. They performed rituals. They smashed the vase. Strangely enough, the hammer had barely touched it. The man holding the hammer screamed. He said he saw thousands of golden eyes staring at him from within the wine. No one dared to touch it again. Finally, an old man from the village said only one thing. "Don't bother looking for shamans anymore. Let's go to the temple." The family took the jar to the ancient temple on the mountain. The abbot didn't look at the jar. He just closed his eyes. Then he sighed. "This animal has lived too long. It has a spirit. Killing it for survival is one thing. Killing it to show off, to soak it in wine for pleasure, that's another." For 7 days, the temple bells rang incessantly. Prayers for the deceased were chanted from morning till night. The last night, a cold wind blew through the main hall. Everyone heard a very long, whistling sound. Then, a huge black shadow flew up into the sky. Disappeared into the rain. The next morning, the jar of wine was now just clear water. The snake's carcass had turned to white ashes. Mr. Dye also woke up. But his hair had turned completely white in just 1 week. He sold his entire collection of animal-infused wines. Every year he goes to the temple to perform a memorial service for the souls of those he killed. He never dares to drink a single drop of the herbal wine again. The locals say that on rainy nights, if you pass by the ravine where the giant snake once lived, sometimes you can still hear the sound of the temple bell echoing through the forest. And behind that bell, there is the sound of a very large snake slowly crawling away. As if it has found peace. Or looking for another bottle of wine to settle an unfinished debt.